Hello, my name is Preston Snyder, and on behalf of the Whitman County Library System, I am here to talk to you about online safety. This little device has revolutionized just about everything today in our modern world. From personal communication, obviously, of person-to-person communication, all the way to things far more important and lofty, such as online banking. So today I'm going to give you a few helpful tips to keep this guy and all the personal data therein out of sinister hands. The most base level form of security you can have on your phone is a passcode. You take a 4 to 6 digit code, you lock it, and then anytime you want to use your phone, log into an app, or do anything with high level security, you'll put in your code as a protected layer. Now, these are fantastic, but also if you're not careful, these are very easy to crack. 1, 2, 3, 4, unfortunately, is not a very good one to use. On the off chance of a worst case scenario, let's say your wallet gets stolen with your phone, your birthday is also not a good one to use as well. It needs to be clever, maybe it's a pattern or something else, but something that isn't related to you and isn't a sequence of numbers all in a row. That is going to be one of the best passcodes that you can use to make sure that you are secure. Another one that's pretty popular is the fingerprint scanner. So this is the idea of maybe you put your thumb or a finger on a screen. Sometimes there's like a button on the back, or even if you're a little older, a button right here where you will place it. It will take a scan of your finger, lock it in, and then you will use that to log in way of a passcode. This is very helpful because your fingerprint is unique. It is very hard to spoof. However, if things happen and you can't get into your device, what it's going to do if the fingerprint scanner doesn't work for whatever reason is default you to a passcode. So passcodes are important. Apple has a very similar feature with the Face ID, where it takes a nice, pretty scan of your face. And then if you want to log in or do anything of the sort, it's an extra level of, you're gonna look, you're gonna smile through the camera, it will identify your face, and it will log you in. However, whatever the situation is, and your camera won't recognize you, well, as a default to make sure you get in, it will, you guess it, ask for a passcode. Other security features are fine, but all of them will default back to a secure way to log in. But it's good to know what works for you, what your preference is, and to make sure that whatever you do, especially involving passcodes, you remember what it is you did. So that way you aren't accidentally locked out of your device. So a thing that you might notice with most things on your phone is that a lot of them don't come from Apple or Android directly. You can download things from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, but most of these apps are not owned by either of those entities. But because they are locked into the phone, there is a communication that has to happen between the phone and the app. This is a great thing because if you download an app like Facebook that asks for a whole ton of things, be it your location, your camera roll, access to your camera or microphone, it is not given to it automatically because it can't. This is a privacy law violation. It needs to ask permission to use these things before it steps forward, which is great. But the biggest thing is to understand what apps are doing. Since they are third-party processes, what are they actually asking for? And when you give it permission, what does that actually mean? So for example, if you want something like Zoom on your phone in order to join a conference call, it's going to ask you for your microphone and your camera so that you can also sit in and participate. But you also have the ability to dictate within your settings how often, whether that be this is always on, or if these features are only on when you're using the app. Or you can also go in and just shut them off altogether. Now, what's really nice about downloading apps is that you can generally tell what they're going to ask for before you even download it. For example, so we hop into the iTunes store. I have an Apple device. We scroll, oh, here's the front page. iPhone Essentials, we have Snapchat. Tap into Snapchat. It'll show you the page, what's new, a preview of what's going on, your reviews. But if you keep going, you'll see the app privacy screen. What it will let you know is there is explicit data used to track you. There's a bunch of data that is linked to you. And these are the things that, like up front, it's going to ask you about, and it's going to want your explicit permission to use. So important to think about as you're downloading apps is that a bunch of this exists, but they will tell you up front. The Google Play Store also has a similar window that's going to tell you what permissions can you expect it to blatantly ask for. A final point to just remember is to be careful of what you download. Now, Google and Apple do tend to do a pretty good job of doing a pre-vet to make sure like there's not an explicit virus or you're not accidentally walking into something that's going to hurt you. However, there are a lot of spoofs, things that happen, apps that are like almost apps or plan that are like similar, and they have the risk of like, oh, you entered a username and password, and now they've just kind of run off with your information. One of the best things to do, due diligence, is if you're interested in a specific app or service, go to their official website first, possibly on desktop or on mobile. Either tends to be fine. They will generally have a link exactly to where you need to go to download the mobile app version. Sometimes too, depending on like if you're doing a web browser, Twitter is a good example of if you were to go on that site, like somebody links it to you, you go and it opens in Safari, it's just gonna tell you directly, hey, here's a pop-up, go download the app. Doing it through official channels leads to a higher level of success. So on that note, we'll move on to the next thing. Desktop, laptop, mouse, keyboard, all of it, whatever it is, whatever order you have, your computer is a high-powered functioning device that is capable of all types of incredible things. And much like your phone, it is this huge, personal, literal, physical database of personal information that needs to be protected. So we're going to run through some security features to help you. Going forward, I am going to have a Windows setup in mind, and while controls and interface for Mac and Linux are going to be a little different, the principles of all these should be exactly the same. So first things first, mind your passwords. For most devices, website setups, whatever it is, you will need to have a series of passwords. And as hackers and data thieves have gotten more clever over the years, you really can't get away with having the one password fits all or even loose variations of the tried and true I love cats 1, 2, 3. It doesn't work anymore. They've gotten clever, it's kind of easy to find, and if they get it once, that's all it takes for somebody to get into all of your stuff. So the recommendations for a password now are something a lot more complex. You do want a series of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters, typically 12 to 20 characters long. That's a lot. And it can be incredibly cumbersome, especially if you have to have this for every single service. It is the safest option, but it is also incredibly overwhelming. That is why we do recommend password management services, things like 1Password, where you do have a username, a password, and a secret key. You build that once, and then you are able to generate and store all of these passwords in one place. So that way you can have the most secure form of passwords on all of your logins, but you only have to, and I would physically write down, just the one. Second, be cautious about browser extensions. Browser extensions are these cool little add-ons to your specific internet browser that allow you all kinds of extended capabilities. For example, as we talked about, 1Password has a browser extension that allows you to just access all of your passwords in your vault with a click of a button and a pop-up instead of having to open a new tab, go all the way back through all of your vaults every time you need a password. Another example is Honey. That is a browser extension that exists. It's actively looking for coupons, and then as it finds deals on websites you're on for shopping, it will pop up as it finds deals for you in checkout, doing a lot of this process automatically. They're really cool, but you need to make sure you know what you're looking for in downloading before you do. Those nefarious hackers have come up with all kinds of ways to spoof this technology, and you'll get extensions that are almost what you're looking for. Maybe it's 2Password, or it's Honey, except it's a 0. Little things that are almost what they're supposed to be, but when you download them, they end up being malicious software that could damage you. So things to be aware of, firstly, is make sure that when you download the browser extension, it is the real one. You can do that often through official channels. If there is something that you're interested in downloading, you can usually find it on the official website of whoever the provider is. So Honey's official website, 1Password's official website will usually lead you directly to the download page, so you don't even have to worry about finding the wrong one. They've just led you directly there. Third, know your browser settings. Your internet browser, whether that be Google Chrome, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, what have you, all have a bunch of settings built in to make your web browsing experience all the more better. At a basic level, these are things like being able to save your favorite pages, creating favorites, and then understanding what you do with cookies. On a more advanced level, you have some pretty powerful features, including password management, privacy features, and an incredible tool, which is the ability to tell your browser how to interact with an unsafe site before you get there. What that means is your browser will tell you if you go to an unsafe site, whoa, hey, hold on, stop. You'll get a window usually that'll say, this site is unsafe, and I don't know if you should go there. So that way, the only way you can actually access this potentially dangerous site is if you ignore all the warnings, blow past the tiny text, and say, it's probably fine. Otherwise, it is good for keeping you out of trouble and never letting you actually getting too exposed to any malicious activity that lies on the other side. So understanding your settings, going in and making sure you've explored and set things to your preferences is incredibly valuable. Fourth, how do you tell if a website is trustworthy in the first place? There are over 1.1 billion websites in existence. Billion! And as much as we'd like to believe that all of them are nice and that they are made for the benefit of the user, we unfortunately know that's not the case, and there are a bunch of malicious actors out there waiting to take things from you. But there are a few things we can look at to indicate whether or not you're walking into a trap. First thing, do they have an SSL certificate? So for the sake of this video, an SSL certificate is a security feature. In your search bar, you will see it as kind of a little lock. If that lock is locked, then that means that they have paid for URL security access, which means that through hosting and verified standards, that website is considered safe to go to and that nobody can potentially hack into it, cause problems. Next, once you're there, if they do by chance have an SSL certificate, but you're still unsure, what is your call to action? Are you being asked to potentially download something sketchy or something you haven't been informed of up front? Are you being led in a very specific direction to do something that, if you took a few seconds to step back and think about, would you? Are you being spoofed into believing this is a government website when it isn't? Are you being asked to give away personal or banking information? What are you being directed to do? And is that something that, under normal circumstances, you would or would not do? Understand who's trying to vie for your data and make careful judgment calls based on that. Fifth, be careful what you download. Similar to extensions, it is important for you to understand what exactly it is that you are being asked to download. One of the first ways to tell is the offer realistic? Some of these offers are free music, TV shows, movies, software suites, or any general unrealistic offer that just doesn't make sense. Other things to look out for is when you get to a download screen, are there other things such as possible ads that look like a download button that aren't, that are designed to trick you into click the thing other than what you were supposed to click? Third, you get a thing like a pop-up that is asking for more than just absolute basic contact information. Let me tell you, unless you're getting a service quote, you are at a checkout screen or you are getting ready to buy something or on an official government website, there is no reason that anybody should be asking you more than anything other than maybe your name, your email, and possibly your phone number, and only if you want to be contacted. And of course, after you do download the file, check it to make sure it actually looks like what you were supposed to download. If you were supposed to download a PDF recipe book of 2020's top 5 recipes of all time, and you get something that looks like a software application, a zip file, or something that makes you question what you just did, you can always stay safe, put that in your recycling bin, empty it, and then immediately run an antivirus scan. Speaking of which, now we will talk a little bit about antivirus. Antivirus software has changed a bunch over the years, and luckily now, gone are the days of having to actively worry about things like viruses or worms or other entities that are specifically designed to cause damage. Unfortunately now, most of it is specifically aimed at stealing as much data as possible. Now, when it comes to antivirus specifically, Microsoft has largely paved the way in what antivirus software should look like, especially if you have a Windows device. Windows Defender really is kind of a gold standard of watching, protecting, and make sure a lot of the malicious entities are alerted or stay out. Now, that's not to say you can't use a bunch of other things such as Sophos, AVG, Malwarebytes. A lot of these still work, but you are going to use them in parallel instead of as an active replacement for Microsoft Defender. So really it's building a wall around your fortress instead of building a series of fortresses. Now, that being said, there are a few categories of viruses worth talking about, and these are some terms you may be familiar with or definitely want to be familiar with as well. Now, the first is malware. Malware is software that is specifically designed to disrupt systems, potentially leak information, and potentially inhibit your ability to access other parts of your computer. It's an annoyance. It does have the ability to data leak, but it's largely there to just disrupt your regular use of the computer system. Now, the second one, which is one you may have even heard about on the news, is spyware. Spyware is a type of software that exists to maliciously attack a device, steal as much information as possible, and does so in order to put the user potentially in harm's way. Therefore, the information that is taken is specifically used to hurt you. So this is one you want to be particularly cautious about. Now, finally, the last one, and possibly the most dangerous of these three, is called a rootkit. A rootkit is a type of software that will usually disguise itself within a software suite or embed itself something else that is designed to hide away, but when activated, give someone the ability to remote access your device. So if you download a software suite, it's hidden in there, you use the software, it will activate, and all of a sudden, some foreign malicious entity will now have the ability to directly control your device. It's very scary, and absolutely why paying attention to all of these principles, making sure your stuff is kept safe, is highly important to make sure you never give anyone the opportunity to remote control your device. Email is the essential digital communication source. Whether it is for personal communication, business communication, promotional offers, or good old spam mail, it's been highly valuable, highly used, and highly circulated. That said, with great power comes great opportunity to scam, and Uncle Ben would be ashamed. Now, most of the time, your email client, whether it's Gmail, Yahoo, Outlook, Hotmail, whatever it is, will typically catch it, flag it as spam, and throw it into your junk folder for you never to be seen again. Every now and then, a few will slip through, and we want to make you aware so that you know something suspicious is happening and help you avoid getting scammed. The first most popular and most widespread one you should know is called the phishing scam. The phishing scam, with a PH, is a little bit like phishing, with an F, except in this case, you are the fish, and the email is the bait. These are emails that are designed to look like things that would otherwise be recognizable, and their whole goal is to get you to either click a link or distribute some kind of information that would then give leverage against you. Now, You will typically see them in very panic-inducing messages like, your Amazon account has been hacked and $1,000 has been spent. You need to get to it right away. Or something else that is specifically meant to induce panic so that you act right away. You go in, you click, and you're in the I need to fix this now mindset. So you get one of these emails, you are unsure and you want to act now. First thing to do is take a step back and say, who is it from? Now, a lot of these emails will be able to get the banner name to say whoever it is, whether it is Amazon, Walmart, your bank, whoever. But if you were to click on the actual name to see the email itself, what does the email say? If it's supposed to be from Amazon, it should never be something like customer service 1234@outlook.com or something that isn't an official @amazon.com or @walmart.com email. So be careful. The first thing is that they are trying to disguise who it's from so you don't catch it. Secondly, how is it written? Oftentimes, upon first glance, you will see that, oh no, it's a panic message. It's written in a way that seems structured and official, and I need to act now. But if you go back, sometimes you'll see strange spacing, misspellings, characters that aren't even fully of the same language. All these things are trying to do to sneak past junk filters do play to the disadvantage if you take the opportunity to look a little bit. Email signatures as well are another key to this. Is it something that actually looks like it would be from Amazon? Do you have the ability to contact this person, to call their department, and otherwise get a hold and try and solve this that isn't clicking the link? If the answer is no, then you are probably good to ignore it. Another thing to think about is, would this entity normally be contacting you in the first place? This one seems silly, but in Amazon in particular, oftentimes if you have made a purchase and that money has gone through, it does not matter. They are not going to call you out and respond to you. And if they do, they're going to do it through an official channel. Even in the example of your bank, if there is a mysterious transaction, the first thing you should do is call your bank to see. If they cannot verify that something has happened, odds are the entity in the email is trying to get your information if the bank can't verify what they're trying to say. So if you take the opportunity to think, breathe, and evaluate, odds are you aren't going to fall for any of these. And then, of course, the second half of this is the offer too good to be true? Now, some of them are panic, but then on the other hand, you see ridiculous offers like, hey, you have won a $2,000 sweepstakes to any free cruise. You have to fill out this form now. You have been specifically selected. If you haven't engaged with a cruise website or participated in any sweepstakes, odds are it's baloney. If there is a Nigerian prince who's offering to give you a bunch of money, you probably look up who the Nigerian prince is, and either you will find a very wealthy, very troubled public figure, or odds are you are going to see signs of a scam. When in doubt, look it up, because odds are if it is a scam, there's a record of it, or there's something similar that's already been done, that's documented, and you can know, well, hold up, I'm not going to click that link. Whether it's on your personal phone or at work, odds are that you have interfaced with a fraudulent phone call that's either attempted to upsell you into a ridiculous service that would otherwise be a free service, or try to get personal information out of you in a way that doesn't quite make any sense. Regardless, it's good to know, be prepared, and understand what these various types of scam calls are, and know what to look out for. One resource we do recommend is Kit Boga. This is a YouTube channel where he runs through all of the process of getting phone scammed, walks you through it, and interacts with these scammers with pretty high entertainment value. But that said, here are a few types of scammers. Number one is robocalls. These are calls that are very automated. Sometimes it's very easy to tell. Sometimes it's a little more tricky, but they attempt to get you through a scripted scenario so they can determine whether or not you're a lead, get you contacted with a live salesperson whose job is to then get as much information out of you as possible. Now, a lot of these are easily broken by breaking the script, not answering the questions correctly, or of course, hanging up. But some of the common ones we see as well are them trying to impersonate official channels to get you scared, not make you think, and answer all these questions, such as the the Medicare office, the IRS, Amazon, whoever it is, you need to make sure that who you're talking to is an actual representative of the organization that are there. And things that you can do to break the script can be, who do you work for? What's your office? All of these things. If you get calls from these and you are in question, default to the official channel and not people pretending to be someone they're not. Now, another form of scam call is the live service deceptive phone call. Often these will take the forms of somebody calling to upsell you into a service that otherwise is free, charge a high price, or are there to be a representative third party on behalf of what is otherwise a free or easily engaged official service. One of the ones we see the most common is for Medicare, in which you are entitled to benefits. You are able to be represented by a third party. Now, their immediate job is to call you and to get you into this funnel as soon as possible, so they have no time for the questions. Now, this script is easily broken by asking simple questions such as, what records do you have of me? What department is this again? Who do you work for? Why do you need this information? How did you get my number? All of these things that a regular skeptical person would ask in the first place, but they typically will not even answer those questions, hang up and break the connection. Maybe they'll call again. If they hang up without answering your question, when a regular agent would have all of the resources to answer every single one of those, and if it's a government agency, be required to do so, odds are you are dealing with a scam artist. Now, the biggest and most important thing to remember is as you are engaging with these, be careful what they're asking for and never, under any circumstances whatsoever, give away your social security number or bank information over the phone. Ever. Period. Don't do it. If there is a reason to get that information, it needs to be done through an official channel. Never, ever, ever give that away over the phone. There are a ton more scams and cons, but there's a few principles you can use that you don't have to know all of them, but you can understand the process of which they go through. So a few things you can do is first, take a step back and ask yourself, does this make sense? If you're being contacted by an entity that's talking about things that you've never been talked about before, never been approached, or have no contact with in the first place, maybe it's not real. The second thing is to do your due diligence through an official source. If it's somebody calling on behalf of your bank, say, hey, no worries, I'd like to call my local bank branch. Hang up the phone and call your local bank branch. If there's something wrong, they'll let you know. Often, they have the ability to let you know if there's a problem through email, phone call, and text. If you don't have any of those and it's some random person from a strange unofficial number calling you about your bank, it's probably a scam. Ask questions over and over. If it's an actual professional from an actual company, they will have all of the information you need to answer all of the questions you might have or be able to get back to you. Odds are, because these scammers are in a hurry, they will try and push past you, ignore your questions, and try and relieve your worries instead of answering otherwise very legitimate questions about the product or service in question. Do your due diligence. When in doubt, look it up. A quick Google search, either of the number, the type of script, who it is, and scam right after it will usually reveal quickly whether there's a documented history of these kinds of phone scams, what to do about it, ignore it, and if you want to be extra cool about it, reporting it to the FTC. But regardless, making sure you're looking things up, being aware of what's going on, and taking yourself out of the scam cycle is really important to keep you safe and to really give you that peace of mind. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is in that unfortunate scenario that you have been scammed. Maybe your social security number or something has been taken online by scammers. What you need to do immediately in order to reduce as much damage as possible. In essence, the things you need to do are, first and foremost, file a police report. After you've filed that police report, you will also want to file it with the Office of the Inspector General. Generally, you can do this online, so those things tend to be compatible. After that, you will want to lock your credit. So what you'll want to do is call one of the big credit companies. This is either going to be TransUnion, Experian, or Equifax, and tell them to lock your credit, which is to essentially mean that if somebody does any kind of credit check or anything, they have to directly call you first before they proceed with anything, making it so that if somebody makes any moves, you will know about it immediately. And then the last thing you want to do is file a complaint to the FTC, in which you can even directly report. There's a section for you to report identity theft. So that is the worst case scenario, but with all this information now, we hope that this helps you make a safer online navigator. That said, if you do have any questions, please reach out to us via the Digital Navigators hotline. We're happy to help. Thank you, and be safe out there.